Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. Hi, I'm David Manti, and this is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me this week is Luke Costello, Regional Sales Manager with Mach Technologies. Thank you very much for joining me today, Luke.
Thanks for having me, David. Appreciate the opportunity to jump on the show with you.
All right, before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, if you want to reach the podcast, you can email me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com. All right, Luke, tell me a little bit about how you got into the cannabis industry.
Yeah, well, Mach Technologies, we've been around about 87 years now, and we've been doing a lot of specialty equipment engineering and manufacturing, spanning a lot of different industries from the pharmaceutical world to the automotive world. We do a lot of automation with robotic arms and kind of assembly line, pick and pop with parts and stacking. Ultimately, we looked at this industry, the cannabis and hemp world, a few years back, and saw a handful of gaps that we felt like, traditional manufacturers and other industries were able to provide to their clients and customers in regards to, innovative equipment, automation being built into, kind of existing processes and solving bottlenecks that are, realistic in the labs. And then, lastly, support. So we saw a number of gaps in the industry itself, and really those gaps played well to where we found a lot of success over the last almost 90 years. And so it really kind of felt like a natural transition, for us to invest into this world. So we've been in the space about 3 years now.
What were some of those gaps that you saw?
The biggest one, I think, as you get around and you travel the country and you get in a lot of labs, you see a lot of the same equipment that was being used, say 10, 15 years ago in garages and on a very small pilot scale. We saw a lot of that same equipment being used at a much larger commercial scale where you're expecting businesses to be able to operate efficiently. And it's not really we just didn't see the right solutions in place in a lot of these labs. And, without a lack of innovation and kind of a change in the equipment or a change in the tide, we need more innovation, more automation, more ways for, these labs to be able to produce an end product consistently and affordably. And, the reality was, when the market first started, every new state that comes online, you typically see prices, for some of these end products on the retail side higher, right? And then as the market stabilizes, everything kind of comes back to a normal. But in the beginning stages of this industry, the margins were pretty good. You could go out and, it didn't matter what it cost you to make a liter of THC distillate. If you could make a liter of THC distillate, you could make a lot of money. So as everything started to normalize, the margins got tighter. So anyway, with that came, an idea and understanding that we felt that there was a gap in regards to automated equipment specifically. And then secondly would be, the lack of innovation around some of the existing technology that was there. So that was really the gap that we saw that we felt we could really improve upon into the industry. That's at our core. We're an engineering company and we start from the ground up on that side. So we love problem solving and getting out and understanding what those problems are and then solving them. So that would be the first gap. And then the second one, which is honestly probably, if not more important equally, is on the support side. A lot of the equipment that gets sold out there doesn't have a lot of technology integrated into it. We're starting to see more of it, certainly here over the last couple of years. But a lot of it's just equipment. You have to manually operate it. You have to manually track it, start, stops. You have to have other pieces of equipment measuring out and kind of helping you control that process. And that can get very challenging to engineer and to kind of put those systems together on your own, especially for a lot of these people moving into the space. They haven't been in the industry a long time. No one has. It's a new industry. So how can a manufacturer support a piece of, equipment, remotely without going on site? And, we felt a lot of the folks that were providing equipment, they're growing just like the industry was. And so you're trying to build all these parts of a company that, you need, from the engineering, from the manufacturing, fabrication, then, the support piece is very important. But, if you don't understand some of the challenges that come along with having techs all over the country, you're building technology into the equipment to help you remotely support, your clients wherever they be, not just here in the US, but all over the world. We really felt like there was a massive gap in the support that a lot of these labs and processors and extractors were getting post sale. And, we we hear a lot about these pain points today, when we're out in the field going around the country.
I want to talk about that first pain point, designing the equipment from the ground up. So after you saw, there was a lot of innovation out there, but maybe not necessarily at a professional scale or the scale of equipment that you guys are used to manufacturing. What was that like from an R&D perspective? Were you partnering with other companies looking for what they wanted? Did you start with another piece of machinery and start adding on to that? What did that look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, we understood kind of what we were bringing to the table organizationally and regarding some of those core competencies, being vertically integrated on the engineering side with, process engineers, design, electrical, chemical engineering. We really have a very broad and a very deep level of experience there. We didn't have experience designing botanical extraction equipment. That was not something that we've been doing or had ever done, to be quite honest with you. And so we reached out, and it was a combination of what you just described. We are very active in the community and get out in front of a lot of folks and to understand the pain points, that a lot of these labs are feeling, not just with one technology, with a number of them, from your hydrocarbons to your alcohol extraction, solventless. We really wanted to not just focus on one particular area. We wanted to be able to solve pain points across the board. And so when we went out, into the field to learn a lot of these challenges that folks were going through day in day in regards to the manual operation, the lack of consistent output, from these labs, it's hard, when you're sitting there turning valves and watching dials and, doing it kind of that traditional way. You needed people in there that really knew what they were doing, and it was essential to your business to have them in place. And while you still need that in-house understanding, we didn't have it. And so at that time, when we were going through the design phase, we reached out, we got in front of a lot of people that have been active in the space. We brought on a couple of folks that had been designing equipment at various points kind of on their own and had a really deep understanding of the industry. And, I think with their background, bringing them on board to the team, a few years back and blending them with, our capabilities internally, we really felt like we've been able to introduce some our first set of products we feel were some of the most automated solutions that had been on the market. So, I think we were able to blend and understand what we didn't know, and go out there and find people that did know what they were talking about. And, they ended up feeling that we were a great partner for them because we can, make a lot of these dreams kind of come true, and a lot of these ideas about equipment and some of the things that might not have been so executionable before. So it was just a good blend, and that's kind of what sparked or allowed us to kind of transition and get where we are right now.
To your other pain point, the support, a lot of that sounded like what I hear sometimes is people get equipment into the facility and they think equipment is automation. They have a machine and that's automation, but not necessarily how you can make the process so much simpler, easier for, less people to attend to, a more consistent product, stuff like that. Could you talk a little bit about how that was important when you guys were creating this automated extraction equipment?
For sure. I think you nailed it right on the head. The reality is in this space, not every word means the same coming from every person, from every manufacturer, whether we're talking automation or whether we're talking closed loop systems or whether you can kind of go down the list of American manufacturing doesn't mean the same thing to every manufacturer that you go and talk to. So, I think this industry does a phenomenal job of kind of blurring lines sometimes and creating a lot of gray area. And it allows a lot of folks to operate in the space that put out good work, but it's not necessarily a completely level playing field when there's so much gray. And I think, that's where we are excited about the space, because you have an opportunity to come in and kind of set new standards, at every level of the entire industry, on the cultivation side, the lighting side, the compliance side, when you're building out labs. There's really no true set standards at any level. And so, on the support side specifically, when you're able to build technology into your equipment solutions and remotely access the PLC screen that's controlling that equipment in our technology center in Port Huron, Michigan, all of our equipment is remotely connected to that network. So we have the ability, or our clients have that ability, to call us and we can access their PLC in our technology center. We can run diagnostics, troubleshoot, push software updates through. We can order inventory, or they can order inventory straight through the screen. So it's really it's more of a technology solution, and that's where we felt that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to bridge that gap between technology and equipment. And I think it gives the customers and the folks that are, purchasing equipment from you a better opportunity at success, because we're a partner. We're not just, sending and selling equipment and shipping it out on a pallet and saying, hey, hope we got everything to you. Good luck. I think it's a story you hear a little bit too much often. Not, like I said, the industry's growing, but early on that was a story that was told quite a bit. And so we, we're not just in it to sell some equipment. We want to see our customers succeed, and we want to make sure that the solutions that we're putting out to market are going to be solving problems and making people successful. So being able to provide that support through the equipment and the technology that's built into it, it really gives customers a unique competitive advantage.
I mean, that had to be frustrating at first, where, the company has a 90-year legacy in some like deeply rooted industries where this word means precisely this. And now you're dealing with an industry where automation here doesn't necessarily mean automation there. And I mean, maybe just even from an engineering side, that had to be frustrating.
Frustrating for sure, but I think it was a challenge that we were up for, and we knew you were going to find. Anytime there's a new industry, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, there's just a lot of a lot. There's nothing defined, and it's kind of the wild west, so to speak. When an industry starts, and so we invested heavily into education. We partner with a number of cannabis and hemp organizations nationally, on a state level. We work with groups. Especially in Michigan, we partner with some university groups, and really we just want to make sure that the right information gets out, and that was why it was important to us early on to not, dive into hey, let's just dip our toe in the water. Let's go out there and let's see if we can make a centrifuge, and just see how it does. And we'll just, just kind of go halfway in. We knew when we made the decision to enter the space, we wanted to look at all the different solvents, all the solventless technologies, not just the stuff that's out there, but the kind of the stuff that was underground that you were looking forward to seeing. And we wanted to put out products across that entire gamut, across all of those verticals. And what it allows us to do is really set our customers up for success, where we don't have to sell alcohol extraction as the best type of extraction over all types of other extractions. It's good at what it does. You want to make a lot of distillate. Alcohol extraction will go from A to B very fast, very efficiently. If you want to make other types of concentrates that are a little more shatter and batteries and your live resins, then great, hydrocarbon is the way to go. Or you want to make your hashes, great, let's go solventless. But the point being, it really allowed us to take a different approach and to invest heavily into educating people on just what it is. What is hydrocarbon? What is it good for? What are the drawbacks, right? What are the positives of alcohol extraction, the negatives? And what are you trying to accomplish as a company? What can you sell it for? We really took a holistic approach where we wanted to be able to give them the best chance at success. And while we did have some headaches for sure, because they're like, oh, well, company A is telling us that they have a closed loop, fully automated, alcohol extraction system. Well, extraction system means, the extraction part of it might be closed loop. You close the lid, the alcohol goes in, the alcohol goes out. It's closed loop, but is it closed loop from the alcohol storage through the chilling into the centrifuge, through filtration into the recovery system and out of your decarb where the alcohol is already going back to the front of the system? Like, that's a closed loop, fully automated solution from biomass to winterized decarb crude oil. But other people can say closed loop systems too, because it is in essence. And I think ultimately it's just going to be a time thing. You just continue to put out good messages to the to the community, working with the right folks that are. Science is science. We're not changing the efficiencies of alcohol extraction or what hydrocarbon's good at. We just want people to be asking the right questions, when they're getting into the market, and to be educated. And so that's where we invested, and that took away a few of the headaches.
Well, talking about asking the right questions, sometimes when it comes to extraction equipment, I hear people ask whether or not they're safe and if they're difficult to use. Can you talk about how your equipment is sort of set apart from some of the other stuff in the industry from those two aspects?
For sure. No, those are two great points. I think touching on the second part of that first, which would be the safety aspect, we, being vertically integrated on both the engineering and the manufacturing side, we start from the ground up. We starting with the design phase on a CAD system and running it through all the testing before we even start going over and grabbing sheets of metal and bar stock to start actually on the manufacturing floor. And so when you start from the ground up, it really gives us a tremendous understanding of the equipment solutions that we're putting out to market. And because of that, we get to transfer that knowledge onto our customers, when we go into the training and the installation phase on the back end, which is going to help with the difficult side. The traditional solutions that are out there, they are fairly difficult to operate, not necessarily the equipment, the pieces of the pie, but it's doing the pieces within that process and operating it correctly at every single stage. Otherwise, you're going to be influencing, the consistency in your end product. And so while difficult might not be the word, it's just hard to maintain and hard to get really consistent processes when you're doing everything by hands and levers. And so, traditional solutions can be very difficult to use. If you're trying to do an alcohol extraction where you're having to manually chill the alcohol and then dump it into a centrifuge and start the agitation, speed up the agitation, stop it, discharge it, you're having to go on a timer, so to speak. That's extremely difficult, right? If you're able to put a bag of biomass into your centrifuge and select the recipe off the PLC and everything chills on its own, it goes into the centrifuge, it does the extraction like the recipe told it to, it automatically discharges it, and it beeps and tells you to take the bag out and put another one in. That's not necessarily so difficult to use. Now, while there's a lot of complicated technology, that could be built into those pieces of equipment to help it integrate and operate together. That's why we need to do our part on the support side to ensure that if there are issues with that we're there to support them. But that's why we made the equipment the way we did, so we can kind of reach customers anywhere in the world.
Where are your customers at when they approach Mach? Are they looking to replace old systems? Are they, is it a completely new operation looking for something that's more state of the art? Where do you find your clients?
I would say it's both right now. We do a lot of work in existing markets where there's labs that are operating and they've identified bottlenecks in their process, whether it's, increasing throughput because there's more biomass available, whether it's diversifying their end products and, going from a distillate and edibles to more of maybe a concentrate focused, live resins and shatters side of way, or if they're wanting to go completely solventless. We see a lot of cultivation folks right now that don't have extraction licenses that are able to take advantage of some of these technologies that we've been able to scale because it gives them another revenue stream. And so we do a lot of work in existing markets, helping to improve the bottlenecks that clients have identified or that we can go out and help them identify when we're out in the field. And then obviously when there's a new state that comes online, there's a lot of licenses that get given out on the extraction and processing side. And, those folks are looking for people that can take problems off their plate. And, that's really what we excel at. We've got a diverse team that spans, a lot of different, just a lot of smart people. And it takes a lot of problems off of customers' plates when we can go, hey, if you pour a cement slab and put a building shell up, we can come in and take you from A to Z and have you a fully operational, compliant, certified, third-party peer-reviewed lab and solution in 8 to 12 weeks. And we can literally go from A to Z there, from the enclosures to all the equipment across all the solvents or the solventless stuff you want, and hand the keys over, train your entire team, and go to work.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the solventless solution that you were talking about and how that could be attractive to cultivators?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a competitive market out there, to get these licenses. And, if you can kind of start on the grow side, which a lot of folks do, kind of the natural progression that a lot of these folks get into is the extraction and processing side once they, are able to take that on. And, until that, there's a middle ground where a lot of these folks are looking at solventless solutions with either ice water extraction, which has been around forever with sifting bags and kind of that traditional sense of looking for hash and, pressing it out and getting your live rosins. And I think it's a tried and true technique in the industry, and it's something that you don't need a license for, right? You can create those products without it. And then we've got another solution that we have rolled out last week at MJ Biz, which was our solventless terpene extraction that does batch style and doesn't use a solvent, doesn't decarb the material. We're stripping the terpenes off and giving you kind of another cannabis derived. Either you can reintroduce it back into your end products, or you can sell it off is sell it off that on that level. But ice water extraction and a terpene distillation solution are two problems that people have been solving a lot of different ways over the years to get terpenes and to make this. And it's normally been very time consuming, very tedious, very manual. And we found a way to kind of automate that. Gives anybody the ability to go do it. It's a batch style system. Put it in, push a button, and it doesn't take a lot of understanding to be able to do that, especially when we can come in and train you guys and train anybody on it.
How long was that product under development?
We went to work the last 12 months. So we've been, there's certainly the industry took a big hit, right? I think COVID, everybody felt the pains of COVID, us included, but it allowed us to kind of really get really laser focused on a few of the big headaches in the industry. We wanted to be able to put automated solutions out for a lot of different problems. And because automation is so important to the ability to produce a consistent, more affordable end product. Your inputs dictate your outputs, and if you have a consistent way to go from A to B, you'll get the same output. And so we wanted to make sure that we put out these solutions. And so we've been under work for about a year, and we were able to, our first system that we rolled out a couple of years back was our, EES solution. It was a fully automated alcohol extraction to go from biomass to winterized decarb crude. And then the last year, like I said, we went to work. We had some really aggressive timelines for our hydrocarbon solution that we rolled out last week at MJ Biz, and also our ice water extraction and the terpene solution. So all three of those were developed. I mean, we had been, call it, dabbling with it prior to a year, but the last 12 months is where we kind of went focused internally to make sure that when the industry picked back up, when the days were looking a little brighter in regards to the industry and just the momentum of it, we wanted to be ready to provide solutions for a lot of problems. And we felt like we've been able to do that.
With these specific problems, so say your company has, when you're coming to a potential client, what are you looking for in terms of bottlenecks and headaches where I can solve that?
We take a very open-minded approach when we go out and get in front of clients. We have a core suite of products, that we have at different various, scales and sizes and different varying levels of automation. So, if you're looking for centrifuges or, falling film recoveries, decarb units, particle filtration, winterization solutions, hydrocarbon, manual, automated, any alcohol. We really don't turn down too many problems. This industry and a lot of the customers and clients had some unique challenges that they weren't even expecting. 5 years ago, if you went out and bought $3 or $4 million in capital equipment for extraction, there's a chance that some of those manufacturers are not around the space anymore. And that equipment is there. There's no one that understands it. It's challenging who's going to support it? Who knows it? The people that built it and designed it and manufactured it are no longer either in business or no longer in the space. And so, we find ourselves in some unique situations where there's problems that our clients have, and we're able to throw a challenge to the team and see what they come up with. And even if it's more of a consulting level versus a capital equipment level, we've been able to solve problems both ways. We can't get too off track with all the special custom projects. We understand that there's going to be unique situations. So we're just we got a lot of in-house understanding that helps us be able to craft solutions for customers. And it's not always equipment. Sometimes it's on the consulting side. So it just looks a little different each time.
I bet when you're talking to clients, though, your 90-year history makes them feel a little bit better if you're trying to swap out some equipment from a manufacturer that went under.
I think that's something that this space, while some of the folks that have been in it have been around 5, 6, 7 years, and that makes you almost a dinosaur in the cannabis. It does. It puts the dinosaur tag right on you. And, we being able to have the ups and downs and survive and support customers, with a reputation for almost 90 years, it gives you a unique, it does help customers feel good that we're going to be around, and at the end of the day, it's all about providing the support to them and making them feel good that they're spending their $1 million in the right place, or their 100,000 or their 20,000. The number really doesn't matter, but we do a lot of tours through our facility. We are a transparent organization. We're in Port Huron, Michigan, an hour outside of Detroit. take Detroit Airport, take 94 all the way up to Port Huron. And, we've got a couple 100,000 square foot of manufacturing space. All of our engineering and manufacturing is on site. We have our equipment operating in the back because we have, our licensed temp processor for R&D purposes with the state. And so, it allows our customers to come out and see the engineering team that's behind in doing all the development, walk around, see the equipment, see the milling, see the welding, hear it. It's not quiet in there. If anyone's ever heard my videos I post, they ask me to go do it in a quiet place. There's just not one. It gives our customers a tremendous visibility into who we are, and then they can go play with the equipment, and then they can understand and see and feel how easy it is to use. And then they're going to know we're going to be there. I mean, we've been here for 90 years. We plan on being here for another 90. And
Is the new equipment that you launched at MJ Biz, is that a part of the EES series or the M series, or is that a whole new line?
Whole new line, completely different. So we actually would kind of consider those to be almost 3 different lines, kind of new product lines. The automated hydrocarbon solution is, we feel it gives you a tremendous ability to increase your solvent to biomass ratio, to do bigger batches faster, and to get a more consistent output. We're an ASME certified shop, and that gives us the ability to internally make some of these, tubes and columns that maybe the industry has been kind of, looking for or wanting to be able to increase some of the efficiencies of hydrocarbon and to be able to increase the biomass that you can get through in a batch. And it's just our background and our capabilities give us the ability to put a solution out there that is completely different. This is our kind of version 1 that we are introducing to the market, and here over, the course of the next 6 months, I'd expect kind of some variations of that as we, continue to solicit feedback from the community and figure out ways to improve it. So the solventless line, which is our terpene extractor, and separately our ice water extraction solution. The terpene extraction, we have a couple of these that are going out to market already. So, we've been working on this one a little longer, a little further along. Our ice water solution is, we feel, very efficient. It's going to get the job done for sure in a very more automated solution, more consistent way. I would expect us to be rolling out a more improved version, a more automated solution of our ice water here within the next probably 3 months. But we'll see if my boss, Rob, wants to get mad at me for teasing that a little bit, but that's all right.
Very good. So you said that you dedicated the last year to this R&D, to launching these new products. Was that an issue that you had because sort of Capex spending had kind of frozen for about a year?
Yeah, I would say, a lot of people kind of went into, survival mode, right there at the beginning. I think the cannabis industry, they allowed it to operate. So I don't know if, cannabis took like the massive hit as far as continuing to operate. But as far as new money coming in, yeah, I think definitely felt it slowed down as far as a little less equipment being bought, a little less inquiries, more kind of feelers coming out as far as people that were reaching out to the company, planning for when everything and the momentum started to pick up again. And so, while there might have been a slight, call it Capex reduction, a slight one, I wouldn't say there was really a massive one there, but while there was a little hit there, I think, the amount of conversations we were having and, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, it was really more of a motivating time for us, because we knew that when everything, when the light switch got flipped back on, that it was time to go. And, MJ Biz was 100% an indication of exactly that the light switch is coming back on. That was a ridiculous event. It was tremendous. The feedback was unreal. And so, we just wanted to be ready for it. And so we got motivated, and so far so good.
When you talk about creating end-to-end extraction facilities, you were talking about it earlier, like you just do the equipment, right? You don't construct the building, right?
We won't construct the building, but the actual C1D1 or D2 enclosures, we custom make those in-house as well, and they come third-party peer reviewed. And so nonetheless, we make those all custom, and we can really design the extraction component Although we do make those non-rated as well. So we have constructed some actual rooms and areas or lab areas that would say have a C1D1 area, a non-rated area for your distillation or some of the other equipment that's non-rated, and then also a C1D2, and kind of integrate and connect all that together. And we run all the electrical for it in regards to the control panels. So it makes it a really seamless transition when you're kind of plugging your equipment into the enclosure. So while we don't make the actual physical like metal rooms and construct like the steel frame building part, the actual lab area, we do have a lot of experience in.
You mentioned that you're completely from the ground up, made in the USA product line. Can you have you run into any supply chain issues that have kind of hit other manufacturers this year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's I was talking with a couple of our leaders yesterday, actually, when I was out on site, and there are challenges. Electrical components and parts that you're used to be able to get on demand are 16 weeks out. If you can't call Alan Bradley and get an electrical component, who can you call? I think we kind of had a little laugh about it, but I think it's been, most of our challenges have come with the ancillary equipment that supports it. So, the electrical pieces, maybe some chillers or some heaters, or, some unique piping, just parts of the pie that are essential, but you don't think about until you go to put it all together. And, I think once again, it was more of an eye-opening experience where I think we became a little, even though we have a lot of in-house capabilities, I think we almost became a little too reliant on a few of the parts of these pies that were so essential. And so, we look internally, and we were able to identify some things that we can actually make and have the capabilities to do in-house without having to source them. And so while we're still definitely feeling the pain, not as bad. If there's anybody equipped to kind of navigate those supply chain challenges, we feel like we're at the top of that list just because of our experience and ebb and flow. We've been around 90 years. We've seen a lot of headaches, a lot of challenges over that timeline.
I just have a couple more for you. One I'm always interested in asking is, was there any personal connection that, attracted you to the cannabis industry?
Well, me personally, I've been an active user for a while, but recreationally mostly. It was never, I spent about 15 years in sales of various varieties, whether it was, my own company, or whether it was building sales teams for other folks in the IT world, or selling IT solutions and staffing. I mean, that was kind of my background before I moved into, me personally, before I moved into manufacturing and more specifically into cannabis and hemp. But once you get in here and, the relationships we've been able to build have been quite tremendous. And the stories you hear, especially on the medicinal side with cannabis, it's able to really touch a lot of strings pretty quickly. And, you hear too many good stories not to become vested into it. And so I think that's where we've been able to really blend those lines and become so passionate about solving these problems is, over time and the relationships you build, you get close with people and you hear more stories. And at the end of the day, me personally, I kind of developed that passion for the space, knowing the problems that we're solving. And, you see a lot of happy faces on the other side. So I don't mind giving out smiles.
No, one of the things that I enjoy every day when I'm doing these interviews is the passion that people have for the industry and sort of the sense of camaraderie.
That's it. I mean, good people find good people. And, we say that all the time with all of our customers and all the projects that we're on. We want to work with the people, the best people in the industry. If we don't do something the best, we're going to partner with those who do. We're not going to fake it, so to speak. We want to be around the best people in the industry at every level, the business side, the cultivation side, the retail side, every single front. You want to be able to help and support and bring those people together. And, last week at MJ Biz, it was, it was a week. I mean, shoot, you're talking 30, 40,000 people out there. And the amount of customers that we already had that were out there and just the positive feedback that personally we get, but then that we can promote out to all our customers and the success that they're having. It was a real experience to be able to share that event with everybody. And, it's, I think it's an exciting time looking forward. The momentum is obviously, it's going to continue to get bigger, but I think at this point, it's pretty much just it's not if, it's when. And, there's tons of optimism and there's tons of excitement, and we met a ton of good people. And to be honest, we're just looking forward to, meeting more of them.
With some of that momentum, do you have any eyes on any particular states that you think might turn next?
I mean, there's all the ones down at the south are probably about to turn next. I think that's probably where it's at. But I think shoot, I even saw Kansas start introducing medical cannabis bills, and some of these states that are really you weren't really expecting to maybe come around first. I'm from Kansas originally. You can tell by maybe my some of my Chiefs gear hanging around. Rough start so far this year. I think it's just going to be one by one. I don't have any pure direction. I'll be honest. I should probably maybe be a little more privy to that sometimes, but I haven't been able to sleep over the last about month gearing up for that MJ biz that was last week. So,
No, that's, it sounds like you're at least excited to see, some of those trade shows come back,
We've been on the road, this year, the trade shows were here. I think we went to almost 25 trade shows this year, as far as being on the road. So we want to get our boots on the ground and went back to that education piece, right? You have to get out and get in front of people and have conversations. And, we did that this year. We'll do the same next year. I think we're excited about seeing more faces and more people coming out to the events, and, with more comfort and around the country with everything, in regards to COVID. I think it's going to bring more faces out and, encourage more business and encourage more spending in the space, encourage more states to, put the legislation in place that's the right stuff to help these businesses succeed. Hopefully we can get it federally legalized so that we can get some tax relief for a lot of these cannabis companies. Even here in Colorado, on my ballot that I got in the mail yesterday, they're trying to increase the cannabis tax laws on those same businesses in and out of counties, and they're already hit hard. So I think that's really what we're looking forward to, is just the momentum continuing to build to where some of these barriers that people have had to face in the past aren't having to face them anymore. And then we're almost there. I don't know how close. I don't know if that means like a year, if that means 5 more, but we're definitely closer today than we were 5 years ago. So that's a positive.
Before we get out of here, is there anything that we left out, or anything in particular that you want to make sure the CEN podcast readers or listeners know about Mach Technologies?
Just know you're gonna get an honest response from us, whether we can help you or not. I think that's really what it is, and we're transparent. So I've mentioned a lot of this on the sitting down and talking with you already, David, but we just want to help, and we have the ability to do it, and we can do it from a single source, and that gives our customers a single source of praise when it goes right, but it also gives you a single source to lean on when those challenges that we know are going to happen when you're operating a business. You just know that we're going to be there, and I think that that's really who we are. So
awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, David. Thanks for having me on. Anytime.
Luke, thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it. And it just sounds like Mach Technologies is coming out with some incredible equipment. All right, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, if you want to email the podcast or me, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com. All right, for Luke Costello, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.